I think Miss Bradlin is maybe 39 years old.
I think Mrs. DeBaker is 25.
I think Miss Thompson is 43 because that's how old my mom is.
I think Miss Tansy is 22.
I think Miss Kim is 24.
I think Miss Mattoon is around 29 or 30.
I think Miss Edwards is 20.
I think Miss Cookham-is in her 20s.
I think Miss Reed's 15 years old. I don't want to be meaner or all, but I think Miss Sanders is 35 or 36.
I think Miss McGee is 49 years old.
I think Miss Orr is 81. I think when Miss Missal was little, she was a really hard worker and she was nice to her friends. I think when Mr. Haley was little, that he was very cute and sometimes got into trouble.
I think when Mr. Holmes was little, he was a good sport.
Miss Daughtry as a kid, I think, she had a whole story about how she was a kid. She had a really hard time in reading, and they put her in a lower reading grade, like a lower class for reading. And she went home and she improved her reading, and now she's a 5th grade teacher.
I think when Miss Heineke was little, she was a good student. She paid attention and followed the rules of school law, and she was a good child. She did the things that she was supposed to do without her mom having to tell her what to do.
I think when Miss was in 1st grade, I think she was always good, and I'm pretty sure she got her work done, and I'm pretty sure she listened to her 1st grade teacher.
I think when Miss Arnold was a little girl, she was nice and smart. I think when Miss Wichnowski was a kid, she was really sweet and she had lots of friends and she was funny.
I thought that Miss Collins when she was little, she should have been good and be a good listener, because if she wasn't a good listener, that wouldn't be a good example for the other kids. And to become a teacher, you have to be calm and know how to act right.
But when Miss Orr was in kindergarten, I thought she was loud, and then I thought she would like to play a lot. I think it's hard because Miss Edwards, because a journal, if you're sounding out a journal and you don't know what you write, it's gonna be hard, and then Miss Edwards has to help you.
I think the hardest job for Miss Manshall is actually when we're in trouble for punishing us. That's gonna be the hardest part of our job.
I think the hardest thing about Miss Riley's job is that she has to coach a lot of classes, and one day when Miss Hansley only has to coach one.
The hardest thing about Miss Daughtry's job is that she has to teach a 5th grade class because we have our own ideas and we sometimes don't listen.
I think the hardest thing about Mr. Robinson's job is he has to deal with crazy kids.
The thing that I think is hardest about Mrs. Cruz's job is that she has to deal with grading papers, giving out homework assignments, and us.
I think the hardest thing about Miss Ernie's job is that she has to tell all the kids what to do. I think Mrs. Blake's job is hard because she teaches a lot of classes and teaches a lot of hard classes.
The hardest part of Miss Nassar's job is trying to help other kids that don't really understand.
It's hard for Miss Cornwell to teach because everybody keeps playing around.
The hardest thing about Miss Honeycutt's job is that she has to teach kids, and sometimes it's pretty loud, so it's not that easy.
The hardest thing about Miss Phillips is she has to read like 1 million books in one day. I think Miss Deborah sleeps at night.
I think Mrs. Jones goes to her house and relaxes at the beach all day long.
I think when Miss Wisnowski gets home, she works on stuff for school the next day, checks our papers, and gets more projects that we can do.
I think Mrs. Kim actually fixes a lot of computers.
I think after school, Miss Sanders cleans the room a little. Then she checks our work.
Okay. I think Miss Robinson goes home, cook dinner, then watch TV.
After school, I think Miss Mattoon probably does extra schoolwork and has some coffee.
I think Miss Ernie goes home and relaxes and watches TV.
I think Miss Thompson grades our work at home and watches TV all day.
I think after school, Miss Silberg doesn't really spend time with her family because she has all this stuff to do. But when she has time to spend time with her family, I think it's really nice. But sometimes she doesn't really have time to. But when she doesn't, she has to work on all these projects and get the work done for us. So she brings papers to school so we can work on them in tests.
I think Mrs. Allnut likes to walk her dog after school.
After school, I think Miss Benson does her homework. After school, I think Miss Cruz, she grades her homework, and then when she gets home, she probably lays down on the couch and say, "Wow, what a crazy day that was."
My favorite thing about Miss Brown is that she's very nice and generous, and she's a very good teacher.
My favorite thing about Miss Hansley is that she's funny and kind. My favorite thing about Miss Manshaw is because she's pretty.
My favorite thing about Miss Brown is she helps me with my writing.
My favorite thing about Mr. Peacock is that he helps us with our emotions when we don't feel good and we're sad or scared. And he's nice, he helps us, and he's friendly.
My favorite thing about Miss Bell is she can read books. My favorite thing about Miss Bean that she helps me read better.
My favorite thing about Miss Watley is I always get to be with her.
My favorite thing about Miss Holman is she's fun and she knows so much about math. My favorite stuff about Miss Reed is that she teaches us amazing stuff. I like Miss Robertson come to Centers with me.
My favorite thing about Miss Cornwell that she be nice to us.
I think that my favorite part about Miss Collins is because she teaches me things.
My favorite thing about Miss Bryson is that I always love her, and she always helped me every time, and every time I, anytime I don't know how to do my work, she always helps me. And the favorite thing about it is that she brings Charlie with me. So I used to like to have a staring contest with her, see who blinks first, and I used to like to, just make sure she's okay, and it's just that my favorite thing is that Miss Bryson is the bestest in the world.